They're getting increasingly less dull. Magnus just realizing that he's in love with Alec. Adorable. But both of these books are not done in the Shadowhunter font, and I just want to know what's the reasoning behind that. I'm quite bored, not gonna lie. Hey everyone, how y'all doing? Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing a reading vlog, reading the last two remaining currently published Cassie Clare books that I've yet to read. I did a video like this last year called my Cassie Clare Catch Up, where I read Ghost of the Shadow Market, Chain of Gold, and Chain of Iron. So I'll link that video down below in the description and up above in the cards for you guys to check out. But in that video I mentioned that I might do a part 2 where I try to read the other two books that I've yet to read by her, and I figured this was the perfect time to do it for a couple of reasons. One, there's a Shadowhunter read-along going on right now, hosted by Lisa, Darian, and Casey, and the book for September is the Bane Chronicles, which is one of the books that I need to read. And then also Cassie Clare does not have a new Shadowhunters book coming out until next year, so I figured this was just the perfect time to get all caught up with her books. So like I said, I need to read the Bane Chronicles, and then I need to read the Lost Book of the White. This is the second book in the Eldest Curses series, so I'm going to be reading both of these books in this vlog, and honestly I'm kind of nervous about both of them. I've heard very mixed things about this one. I did not love the first book in this series, so I'm honestly so nervous for this video, but I'm going to be starting off with the Bane Chronicles since this is the book of the month for the Shadowhunters read-along, and I don't want to fall behind. So I already read a story of this years ago. I honestly don't even know when I read it, but the first story is what really happened in Peru, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember anything from the story, but also I know that I didn't like it, so I'm not gonna reread it because I honestly just do not care enough. So we're gonna be starting the second story, which is the Runaway Queen. This is on page 51. So I'm going to be starting this story today. I do have some markers in here for where I would like to read, because ideally I would like to read this in 3 days maximum, because I have a lot of other things that I need to read this month. So let's just get started with reading the Bane Chronicles. The next day. I'm on page 205 of the Bane Chronicles. I'm about to start the Rise of the Hotel du Mort. It's the 5th story in this collection. I wrote some notes yesterday on my phone of the stories that I read. So Runaway Queen, I wrote that this story was utterly dull and I see no point in it. Honestly, yeah, and I feel like a lot of these stories are gonna have a similar theme. I looked at like the titles of the rest of the stories, and I feel like I'm gonna like a lot of the later ones, just because I feel like they deal more with like the current timeline of the series. So there's more characters that I care about, as opposed to now where I don't really care about most of them. Vampire Scones and Edmund Herondale, I wrote less dull and pointless, but still not great. I honestly don't remember what happens in that one. Yes, I do. That was a lie. I do remember. Was not interesting. The Midnight Air, which was the last one that I read. And I believe it's like published as like a solo book as well. Like I believe there's like a little book that you can buy of it. But this one is my favorite so far because we get to see James Herondale in it from the Last Hour series. And you're supposed to read this book, if you're reading it in like publication order, you're supposed to read it after Clockwork Princess before City of Heavenly Fire. But I'm honestly glad that I read it after after The Last Hours, because I feel like I would not have liked that story as much as I did if I wasn't already familiar with James. I mean, I feel like I still would have liked it because you also get to see Will and Tessa and like Jem a little bit, but I feel like I got really excited at the beginning because we got to see James and like see like his origins a little bit, I guess. So I found that to be enjoyable, and I feel like I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much if I hadn't read The Last Hours already. Yeah, so far it's my favorite. I feel like it has the potential to remain a favorite. I have Joey on my lap and he's so cute. So it is late. I meant to start reading a lot earlier. It's 11:23. I wanted to get through 4 stories today, I think, and that's just not gonna happen. So I'm gonna have to try to read some tomorrow, but I might end up finishing this a day later than I planned because I wanted to read this in 3 days only because I have so many things on my TBR for the month still. Like I think I have 8 books that I still want to get through, or 7 after this one, and it's the 20th of September, so like I don't have a whole lot of time, but it might take me 4 days now, which just might mean that some of the other books on my TBR are gonna have to be read in a single sitting, which might not be that hard to do because I'm really excited about a lot of them, and a lot of them are not very long. So anyway, I'm gonna start reading now though because it is so late and I feel like I'm gonna get tired and bored very quickly. I just have a feeling I'm not gonna care about this next story. Like the Hotel d'Amour is cool, but I feel like I'm just not gonna particularly care about this story. Just finished The Rise of Hotel d'Amour, and I honestly have 0 thoughts on that story. Like absolutely 0. Like I mentioned earlier, I just feel like a lot of these stories are gonna be pointless, and I also feel like because I've already read like all of the other books in the Shadowhunter Chronicles and this one came so long ago, like I just feel like it's gonna add nothing. I love Magnus. I feel like we all love Magnus, but I just find these stories so utterly boring. Joey hears my voice and immediately just has to move. I don't know, I'm finding it so boring. The next story is about Rafael Santiago. He's from the Mortal Instruments, obviously, so maybe this story will be a little more interesting. Will we see some of the other characters? I have no idea. And then I believe the story after that is about the fall of Hotel d'Amour, so that's kind of interesting. I don't know if I'll be able to get through both of the stories because I did take a little bit of an intermission while reading this one to scroll on my phone because I couldn't help myself. I also feel like I don't really know how that story ended. I feel like I just blacked out for a minute while reading it, and I have no idea. I was daydreaming about something. Don't feel like rereading the last couple of pages, so here we are. I'm gonna start the next story, but I'm tired and I don't really want to read anymore, so this will be interesting. Okay, I thought maybe we would see some of the characters from the Mortal Instruments, but it's literally 1953, so no go. No go. I forgot that Raphael is a vampire and he's been around for a long time. My bad. Okay, I just finished saving Rafael Santiago, and I actually really liked that story. Wasn't expecting to, but I actually really enjoyed seeing Raphael as like a new vampire and seeing him like interact with Magnus. I really liked their dynamic with each other. I can't remember if we saw much of them together in the Mortal Instruments. I don't think that we did, but I could be wrong. I have a very bad memory, but it was fun to see their dynamic with each other. I actually did enjoy it. It's currently 12:41 p.m. You can barely see that. I honestly can't decide if I want to read another story or not. I think I might read one more. I don't think I'm gonna get through the 2 others that I needed to today, but I'm gonna try to do at least one more, or at least start it, because I shouldn't go to bed too late, but I guess we'll see. But I do want to like make good progress in this so I can finish it as soon as possible. and I really enjoyed the last 3 stories. I honestly didn't think I was actually going to be able to finish this today, but by some miracle I did. So the first story that I read today was The Last Stand of the New York Institute, and I actually really enjoyed this one, particularly the second half of it because it deals with Tessa, and I obviously love Tessa with my entire being. Although there was one line that she said that I was not a fan of. She said I was the mother of James and Lucy, and I was just like, excuse you? So those are her children, obviously, which are main characters in the Last Hour series, and obviously that takes place way before, you know, current day kind of timeline, because that story was set in the 80s, I think. So like obviously they would be dead. But I just like never really thought about it too hard, and it just, the past tense killed me. I couldn't do it. Anyways, but the first half of that story was really focusing on the circle, which was really interesting. It was like the beginning of the circle. So it's like when all of Valentine's followers were still like very much like loyal to him and his cause or whatever. So that was kind of interesting to see Magnus and how he kind of like interacted with all of that. And then the second half is when Jocelyn takes Clary to Magnus for the first time, and it was just, I loved it. The second half, like I said, in particular. Then the second story that I read today was The Course of True Love and First Dates. So it was the first date between Magnus and Alec, and you guys saw some of my reactions. It was so cute. Their dynamic is so adorable. Like Alec never having had a relationship before, and Magnus, who is literally immortal and has had numerous relationships. Like I don't know why, but like Alec's innocence and cuteness was just like really well matched with Magnus, and I feel like it's been a while since I've read some of the earlier books in the Moral Instruments, and like seeing the beginnings of their relationship, it's just so cute. Like who gave them the right to be this adorable? I love them. And then the final story weirdly was one of my favorites. It's the voicemail of Magnus Bane. So it takes place after City of Lost Souls, and honestly like a part of me is happy that I did not read this until after reading all of the other books, you know, like after reading The Last Hours in particular, because we do get to see the characters, I hear about the characters in this, and I feel like I wouldn't have appreciated it as much if I were to read it before those books. But then there's also a part of me that is like, I've been missing out on those voicemails. Like I could have read those voicemails 7 years ago when I first got this copy, and then I could have just like known about them this entire time. Like those are some of the funniest and cutest and just like most pure voicemails I ever listened to. I'm not gonna spoil anything if you haven't like read all the books, but I'm just like, those voicemails, like, oh, I love them. This is ridiculous. That story was literally just voicemails. Anyways, I am like 10 times more excited now to do my reread of City of Heavenly Fire soon, because I feel like that is just such a good lead into them. So I guess now I kind of understand the importance of the short story collection, but we're just not going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about the fact that I have had this sitting on my shelf for the past 7 years and have not read it till now. But anyway, I think as a whole I did enjoy this short story collection. It's definitely my least favorite out of the 3 that we have. Are we getting any more? I would love to know. Does anybody know? Are we getting more? Because I think I would really like another one. Anyway, but as a whole I do think I ended up enjoying it quite a bit. Like I predicted, I do like the last stories more than the beginning ones, like the ones that kind of deal a bit more with characters that we are familiar with and situations that we are familiar with and have heard about in passing. Like those were much more enjoyable to read about than the first ones, where like I'm pretty sure the only characters that we knew were like warlocks that I just don't care about. Like, but seeing Alec, I care about him. Seeing Tessa, I love her. You know, seeing James, hearing about James, love him. All of the mentions of Will Herondale, come on. It was just such an enjoyable experience for those last few stories. Like they didn't feel dull or boring at all today, which was really great. I really enjoyed this, and I'm like pleasantly surprised that like as a whole I enjoyed it, and I would probably consider rereading it in the future, although I do think I would have to like slug through those earlier stories. But maybe now knowing that I do like the later ones, maybe it would be less of a struggle to get through them because I know that I would have something to look forward to. Maybe, I don't know, but I know that it would probably be a very long time before I even consider rereading this. But honestly, this went better than I expected, which I think is all I could really ask for at this point. to start The Lost Book of the White. And I noticed this yesterday when I went to grab it off my shelf, but it's not written in the normal Shadowhunter font. Like, we all know the Shadowhunter books are always in the exact same font, and I didn't read the Red Scrolls of Magic physically, and I guess I just never looked too closely inside, but both of these books are not done in the Shadowhunter font, and I just want to know what's the reasoning behind that. Why aren't these books done in the Shadowhunter font? I'm so confused. It makes me uncomfortable. Like, this doesn't look or feel like a Shadowhunter book. I don't know what to do with this information. I don't like it. Okay, so I got up to part 2 in The Lost Book of the White last night, which brings me to page 63. I have some thoughts so far. So I listened to the first book in this series on audio like a couple of years ago. I'm gonna be honest, don't remember too much about it, but it seems like it's not that relevant to this book. The series kind of just seems like a hodgepodge of like different times in Alec and Magnus's life, because this one I found out takes place like after Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy, which is a short story collection that takes place after the Mortal Instruments. So I didn't realize that we were like in this era of their life, which kind of has me excited because this is like my favorite stage of their life that we've seen thus far. So that kind of makes me more excited to continue reading this book. And it looks like Jace, Clary, Isabel, and Simon are going to play more of a role in this story than they did in the Red Scrolls of Magic, so that also has me excited. Now, I do have a bit of like a complaint or like an issue with this book so far, and it's that the writing doesn't really feel like Cassandra Clare. Now, I know that my friend Lisa has talked about this a lot in her videos regarding like the short story collection is when I've mainly heard her talking about it. So it's like whenever she co-writes a book, it's just obvious when it's not her writing it. And I've never really noticed that before in the short story collections. I didn't necessarily notice it in the Red Scrolls of Magic, but I feel like I was already having a weird experience with that book because I was listening to the audiobook, and I've never listened to an audiobook for any of Cassandra Clare books before. And so like I wasn't used to the way that the narrator was voicing it, so if the writing didn't feel like Cassandra Clare, I probably would have just chalked it up to the narrator making it sound weird. But I really noticed it, especially in the very beginning of this book, that it did not feel like Cassandra Clare, and I've literally never noticed this before in any of her co-written books. And I don't know if it's like a mixture of me just really noticing when it's Wesley Chu writing and not Cassie, or if it's specifically because this book is not in a Shadowhunter font. Like, all of her books have the exact same font, and it's not your typical font that books are normally published in. It's like a special font just for the Shadowhunter books. And so this one is not in that font, and so it kind of doesn't feel like a Shadowhunter book. Like, it feels very different. Like, just staring at the page and like reading it, it feels a little odd, like seeing Alec and Magnus's name but like in a regular font. It's so weird. And I know it's odd to think that a font could have such like an influence on the story, but when it comes to the Shadowhunter books, I feel like it does, you know. That font is very memorable. Like, if you see it, you know what it is. So I feel like this book is just missing that. And it shouldn't be important, but it is. So I don't know if that's like aiding the weirdness of the writing and feeling like it's not Cassie Clare because it doesn't look like Cassie Clare's writing, if you know what I mean. I really don't know. It's not the biggest issue, but it's just something that I've noticed. It doesn't feel like Cassie Clare's writing. Like, sometimes Magnus was talking and I'm like, this seems a little odd. But thus far, I'm enjoying the actual story itself. I'm intrigued to know where it's going. Also, earlier I mentioned that I don't think this book is very connected to the Red Scrolls of Magic, that there's like a warlock in this story and the whole conflict stems from somebody that they met in the Red Scrolls of Magic. But I completely forgot that until right now, because when I read it, I was like, oh, like, is this person from City of Heavenly Fire? And I just don't remember. And then I realized, no, they met this warlock in the Red Scrolls of Magic, and I just literally don't remember anything from that book. Anyways, this one is obviously connected to that one because they're in the same series. But regardless, I do think I'm enjoying this more than that one so far. But I think the issue with this series in general is that, like, because they take place in between books that are already published, it's like there's no sense of urgency. I'm hoping this one will feel slightly differently than Red Scrolls of Magic, because that one took place like way back in the series catalog, like back between City of Glass and City of Fallen Angels, whereas this one is like just after Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy, and it seems like freshly after that. I don't know, I feel like there's just gonna be a bit more of a sense of urgency, but like I still know that the characters are fine, so that's just like, I don't know. Normally I like to feel scared for the characters, you know, have like a bit of like an emotional stake in the story, and I feel like I just don't. I don't know. I'm going to spend the rest of today reading this book, which I'm kind of excited about because it's kind of a gloomy day out. I'm wearing my 5 Sauce Tour hoodie. Their new album just came out today as I'm filming this, and it is so good. I listened to it last night when it released at midnight, well, 9 p.m. for me, and it was just so good. So I'm just feeling like the cozy vibes, so I'm kind of excited to just curl up on the couch and read this all day. So yeah, I'm gonna go do that, and hopefully I will enjoy it more and more as it goes on. I don't know. I want to like these books because they're all about Magnus and Alec, and they're my favorites. So I'm hoping that it will grow on me. Okay, I'm on page 191 now of The Lost Book of the White. I'm at part 3. I'm quite bored, not gonna lie. I feel like if these books were just published like in chronological order with like the timeline, and like we didn't know that they were okay, I feel like I'd be a lot more interested and a lot more invested right now. But because this takes place, I'm pretty sure before Lady Midnight, we see them in that series, we know they're okay. So it just kind of like doesn't hold much weight. I mean, like, you can enjoy the journey even knowing that they're okay, because, you know, you read romance books and you know they're going to end up together, but you still enjoy the journey and the, you know, the time it takes to get there. But I just don't find this very interesting, and I don't really know why, because it's not necessarily that different from like the actual like other Shadowhunter books. But for some reason it feels significantly different, and I don't know if it's because it's not just written by Cassie Clare and it has Wesley Chu. I don't know if it's the co-written vibes that are making it a little bit weird, because I guess the short story collections are never quite as good and interesting as the actual novels. I do still enjoy those ones though, so I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with this series. I don't know, because I love Alec and Magnus and I'm enjoying all of the moments with them, and I don't want to spoil anything, but as I've mentioned before, I just love the stage of life that they're in and just how cute they are. Like, I am obsessed with them, and I do love all the little moments with just them, like the little character moments, but it's like all the action that I don't really care about and the actual storyline I don't really care about, which is such a damn shame. Also, I'm gonna mention this probably a million times. I've already mentioned it a few times, so just be prepared that I'll probably keep mentioning it. But the fact that this book is not written in the Shadowhunter font that all of the other books are written in, it's really messing with my head. Like, it should not matter this much, and it should not affect my like overall enjoyment of the story as much as it is, but it is. It really is. It's so damaging to my reading experience, and I don't know why that is. Like, I guess it's because I'm so used to the Shadowhunter fonts, and so like when I'm reading a Shadowhunter book, that's the font that I'm reading and I'm used to it. So it's kind of very jarring to not have this book be in that font, and I don't know why, but I'm just like kind of bored reading it. I'm like, where's the fun Shadowhunter font? Like, it's really lacking in that sense. Like, I guess it just goes with the aesthetic of the books. I don't know what it is, okay? And I realize it's ridiculous that a font could hold so much weight in my enjoyment of a story, but it is, and it does, and it's important, and I miss it. It's not as much fun in a regular font. Anyways, things are happening in the story, but I'm finding that my mind is just wandering elsewhere and I'm thinking about literally anything else. So I'm finding that sometimes I'll be reading and I just have no idea what's happening because I just haven't been paying attention. But I do want to finish this book today. It's currently 10 p.m. almost, and I'm about halfway through, almost halfway through. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it. I am hardcore struggling with concentration, but I need to finish it because it's almost the end of the month and I have other things that I need to read, and also this video needs to go up at the end of this week. So I'm gonna try real hard to finish it today, and hopefully things will get interesting. I don't know. I feel like it really is suffering from the fact that like we know the characters are okay and we've seen the characters past this point in the timeline. It's just very jarring. It's very weird. I don't know why she published it this way. So I'm gonna get back to reading because I don't want to be up super late reading this. And I guess we're just gonna have to see how I end up feeling about it by the end. But right now I'm not super impressed. Okay, Okay, so I'm actually kind of glad that I read this book immediately after reading the Bane Chronicles. I'm on page 202 now, but we just got like a direct reference to a story that was in the Bane Chronicles, and it was actually one of my favorite stories, and I wouldn't have known the context of it if I hadn't read the Bane Chronicles. And if I had read the Bane Chronicles a long time ago, I probably wouldn't have remembered it, but because I just read it, I remembered, and it's like a cute little thing, and I'm like, I remember just reading that story. And now I'm wondering if like there are also references in the Red Scrolls of Magic and I just missed it because I hadn't read the Bane Chronicles, so I wouldn't have known. I don't know, but I love that I'm reading this right after the Bane Chronicles because that was a cute little moment that we just read that I wouldn't have known about otherwise. I finished the Lost Book of the White, and honestly didn't love it, but I think that I enjoyed it more than the Red Scrolls of Magic. It's kind of hard to tell because I listened to that first book on audio and I really didn't like the narrator and how they narrated the voices of the characters. I just really wasn't used to it. I've never listened to a Shadowhunter book on audio before, so it's a very jarring experience for me. So it's hard to tell if the audiobook made me not like it, and if, you know, maybe I would have disliked this one just as much if I'd listened to it on audio. And so the reason why I'm liking this one more is because I read it physically. I don't really know, but overall this book just wasn't my favorite. I mean, the story was fine, but like, as for all the reasons I mentioned before in other clips, like, it just, you know, it doesn't hit the same as the other series in the Shadowhunter Chronicles, and I honestly just don't find these books that engaging. However, there was a bonus short story at the end there that I did not know was included, and it had Jem and Tessa in it, and it was perfect. It was beautiful. I'm thoroughly obsessed with that one. So that was kind of like a good way to like end this book, was to read that short story. It kind of made me forget about all the things that I didn't like about the actual book itself. Overall, I just don't love this series. I'm not necessarily looking forward to the next one whenever that's coming out. I don't think anybody knows, but very happy that I finished this. Yeah, so now I'm all caught up until Chain of Thorns comes out, which I'm very, very excited for. Like, literally, it's been pushed back so many times. I'm just like, I need it in my hands ASAP. But in like a slightly shocking turn of events, I think the Bane Chronicles was my favorite of the two. I don't know if I had any predictions for which one would be my favorite. I think I was thinking that I would dislike them an equal amount, but I actually ended up enjoying the Bane Chronicles more than I thought that I would. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I am so happy to finally be caught up on Cassie Clare books. It's been a long time coming. I'm a little sad about it, I'm not gonna lie. But Chain of Thorns will be coming out sort of soon. But yeah, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Comment down below and let me know what your favorite Cassandra Clare book is. I would be really curious to know. I don't even know what my favorite is, but I feel like it would be maybe one of the Last Hours books or one of the Dark Artifices? Maybe, or maybe it's Clockwork Princess. I honestly have no idea, but either let me know your like favorite Cassandra Clare book in general or your favorite series, because I feel like it's sometimes a little bit too hard to pick a specific favorite book from her, at least for me. So maybe tell me your favorite series by Cassandra Clare. I still don't know if I have an answer for that. I feel like right now it'd be the Dark Artifices, but that's just because the Last Hours is not yet complete. So ask me that question again when the Last Hours is complete. But anyway, subscribe if you have not yet already, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!